my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be both my December 2024 reading wrap-up and also my January 2025 reading wrap-up. And these 2 months are very much the definition of quality over quantity for me. I spent most of December either sick or crocheting gifts for people, and I spent most of January editing all of my 2024 wrap-up videos and 2025 TBR videos. So yeah, did not get a ton of reading done, but luckily what I did read was really good for the most part. I will have the content warnings I could find linked down below in the description along with links to some resources, and let's go ahead and get into it. And we, of course, are going to be starting with December. I read 5 books in December, 2 audiobooks, 1 light novel, a graphic novel, and a poetry collection. And we are going to start with one of those audiobooks, which is Into the Riverlands by Nghi. And Into the Riverlands is book 3 of the Singing Hills cycle, and it follows a wandering cleric who runs into an ancient feud and finds themselves more involved in the history of the Riverlands than they ever expected to be. And I was very, very excited for this book after listening to book 2 in this series, and Into the Riverlands had a very strong start for me as well, and I did ultimately end up liking this, just not nearly as much as I was hoping to. Like, there were some really amazing lines and quotes about beauty and storytelling in here, and those were by far my favorite part of this book. And it was also nice to see the series return to Chi's story as well, but I just couldn't get into the action scenes almost at all. But at the same time, I also did have a fever while I was listening to this, so that probably didn't help no matter how hard I was trying to get into them. And I was trying really hard, and on the other hand, this book did fill the time that I wanted it to fill when all I could do was just lay in bed. So I am grateful for it in that sense, but I'm also not necessarily sure this got me as excited for the rest of the books in this series as I was hoping that it would. And I ended up giving Into the Riverlands by Nghi 3.25 out of 5 stars. And next we have Kaiju number 8, exclusive on the 3rd division by Naoya Matsumoto and Keiji Ando. And this is a light novel that is based off of the Kaiju number 8 manga series. It gives extra looks and insights into the characters and members of the 3rd division, including Kafka, Reino, Shinomiya, and Hoshina. I was very excited about this light novel going into it. Kaiju number 8 was my favorite anime series of 2024 and also my favorite manga series of 2024, and this was giving me more content from that series. And I will personally always really want that, and I did very much love the new content that we got in here. That being said, half of this wasn't new to me though, because I had already read it in Kaiju number 8 B-side, which maybe that's my fault for not knowing a couple of those stories were going to be in here prior to reading this. Like, Keiji Ando also worked on that series as well, so it does make sense. But yeah, I do think that I was expecting something different here, but I do still really love those stories. I really love them in B-side, and I enjoyed them in here even if I have already read them in manga format. They provide extra insight into some of my favorite characters and also just fill in some blanks that the main series didn't cover. And there were also a couple of new stories in here as well, and I really loved those, especially the last one. And it was also really cool to read a kaiju battle in the light novel format, and I would actually really love to see the series do more battles and more stories like this. So overall, this is still one of my favorite series ever. I probably would have given this 5 stars if they didn't use those couple of stories from B-side, but I also still really love B-side, so I ended up giving Kaiju number 8, exclusive on the 3rd division, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next we have Avatar: The Last Airbender, Suki Alone by Faith Erin Hicks. And this is one of the Avatar: The Last Airbender comics, and it follows Suki after she was captured by the Fire Nation and brought to Boiling Rock, where she decides to build a community amongst the other prisoners, but it is going to take a lot to build their trust. So she needs to use all of the resources that she has, but even that might not be enough for so many frightened prisoners. This was really solid, and I really enjoyed getting to see more of Suki because she is one of my favorites, and kind of like what I said before with Kaiju number 8, this just gave me extra content of her and also just gave me new content from one of my favorite series. And I really enjoyed reading all of her community building efforts. I also really liked the way all of the flashbacks built up and the way everything came together. There was a depiction of loneliness in here that hit hard for me as well, and the only complaint that I really have about this is that I do kind of wish that it was longer, because there is like this really big, really cool emotional moment that's also like a huge moment for Suki and her character growth that just felt too fast for me, and I didn't feel like the full scale of the emotions that I think this just wanted me to feel, both in that moment and by the end of the comic. Like, the payoff should have landed much harder than it did for me, so I ended up giving Suki alone 4 out of 5 stars. Next we have Lakelore by Anna Marie McLemore, and this follows one of our main characters who really wants to protect the world under the lake that has become a safe space for them. But when our other main character finds their way into that space, everything begins to change. So fun fact, I listened to this audiobook entirely in one day, and that is partly because it was just what I had on while I was doing that crocheting that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but it's also majorly because I just really enjoyed this book. I really loved both of our main characters here. They really stole my heart, and I loved their relationship with each other as well. There were some really amazing and beautiful moments, and this book also really nailed the whole queer YA coming of age themes that they had going on, and I really loved it in a way where I would love to see this adapted into some sort of live action adaptation one day. And a lot of those really amazing and beautiful moments happened with a lot of really pretty descriptions of water and water things and just magic. And speaking of magic, I really thought this book would go into that more, or really at all. Like, I'm all for the magical realism, but it really felt like there was going to be some sort of description, twist, discovery, reveal, etc. That just never came, and it did really feel missing to me, so this one is also going to be a 4 out of 5 stars, but again, this really did steal my heart, and it's still one of my favorite books that I read in 2024. And next we have Desecrated Poppies by Yaffa, and this is a poetry and essay collection that was written in anticipation for the 2024 elections. It dives into the intersections of anti-trans and anti-Palestinian politics and how it all intertwines, and is also used to advance fascism. And there's a focus on cultural work and the importance of prioritizing the most marginalized in order to combat it. And speaking of one of my favorite reads of 2024, this was one of the very amazing nonfiction books that I read that year. And I really love the poems in here. Like, I read this on my Nook and I highlighted a ton of things. Like, they were that good, that heartbreaking, and that impactful. This one also had some essays as well that really resonated. They had some good reminders and also some specifics that were good to know. And I said this back when I read Blood Orange and Rivka as well, but 2024 was the year that I started getting into poetry again, and all 3 of these collections have only made me want to keep reading more in 2025. And that is going to bring us to the manga series that I am caught up to and currently reading chapters from over on the Shonen Jump app, including chapters 118 and 119 of Kaiju number 8, chapters 25 and 26 of Ruri Dragon, chapters 175 to 178 of Blue Box, chapters 137 to 140 of Akane Banashi, and chapters 59 to 62 of Kagurabachi. And my favorite read of December was definitely Kagurabachi, who had a very fun and exciting reveal that I was not expecting, and I do think that it is going to lead this series down a really interesting path. And it's also really reignited my love and excitement for the series as a whole, so yeah, this was really good overall. Okay, so we have now reached January, and in January, I read a total of 5 things, 1 book, and 4 manga volumes. Starting with A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcie Little Badger. And this follows one of our main characters who has always believed that there is something more out there. And then this follows our other main character who is from the land of spirits and monsters and has been cast out from his home. However, he has since found a new place to call his home at the banks of a bottomless lake, and our 2 main characters, they have no idea that the other one exists until their worlds collide in a way that they haven't for centuries when a catastrophe befalls the earth, and there are some out there who would kill to keep their worlds apart. So I started this book in late November and I just didn't get a chance to finish it until early January, and I am still kind of sad that it didn't make the cutoff for my 2024 favorite books video. Like, this very much felt like it should have been my final 5-star rating of 2024, but instead, it is my first 5-star read of 2025. And at this point, I just kind of think that's meant to be because I couldn't ask for a better start to my reading year. And I think what I love most about this book is just how it all came together. Like, I'm not entirely sure that I've ever read anything like this. I loved all of the characters and all of the found family elements and just all of the family dynamics in general, and also the friendships. There's a lot of heart here, and the characters were all super lovable, and I really enjoyed following their story. And it was like no matter what what this book was doing, I was just fully along for the journey and fully immersed in it and having an amazing time. And I loved getting to explore the land where the spirits live and just all of the adventure. We also spent more time there than I thought we were going to, and I really loved that as well, but I also really enjoyed when the characters crossed over and met one another. Because things did feel pretty separate until then, and then it was like having two of your favorite stories cross over, and it was so cool to see the characters interact. This is another one that I would love to see some sort of live action adaptation of one day. There are scenes in here that were, one, again, super cool, and two, I don't think I'm going to read or encounter anything like them ever again. And that felt super refreshing, and I am also 100% sure Darcie Little Badger's writing style has something to do with why I love this book so much, and just got so invested in this book as a whole. So yeah, this basically just succeeded in all ways for me, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And next we have volumes 1 through 4 of A Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity by Saka Mikami. And this follows a second year in high school who attends Chidori High, which is a boys' school who takes in the boys with the lowest grades, and they are considered to be the dregs of society, especially by the girls next door, who attend Kikyo Girls High, a high school that wealthy and high-class families send their prestigious daughters to. And our main character has an appearance that is often considered to be scary to others, but he actually does have a really gentle heart. And while helping out at his family's pastisserie, he meets a girl and they hit it off immediately. But things get much more complicated when he realizes that she is a student at Kikyo. Okay, so I recently downloaded the K-Manga app, which is Kodansha's official manga reading app, because there is a series on there that I really want to read that I have been seeing around, and in order to read that series on K-Manga, I need points. And to get points, you have a few different options. One is just to buy them, the other is to watch ads and like pick 1 out of 3 chests to see how many points you get. And the other is to read the first chapter of a series that they have chosen for that day. Which, you know, I really was not expecting much from there. There are a lot of really just like not good isekais and romance/harem series on K-Manga. So needless to say, when I went into A Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity wanting to get my 5 points, I was not expecting much at all, and I certainly wasn't expecting to fall in love with it by the end of the first chapter. But you know, that is exactly what happened, and this series is adorable. It is always super pleasant to read. But every once in a while, they do something that is so cute and so wholesome that it genuinely makes my day. Like, this is definitely one of those series that I feel happier after having read a chapter from it, and these characters are so sweet and so adorable, and the way that they've been communicating and resolving conflicts with each other has been so interesting and, again, really wholesome. Like, there's something so pure and innocent about this series, which is super fun, especially since they are kind of doing a little bit of a delinquent thing too. I will say they definitely threw a lot of characters at me very quickly and kind of just threw me into the setting and the conflicts equally as fast. And all of that did feel like a lot at first, and also a lot of the conflict is really frustrating in the moments that it's happening. But I've also quickly settled into this series, and it has all been extremely lovely. The art style is also really pretty. I really like a lot of the comedy. The romance is incredible. The friendships make me very happy, and so do the family relationships that I've seen so far, and I think it's only going to get cuter from here. And I am just so excited that this series is in my life. It feels like exactly what I need now that You and I Are Polar Opposites is complete. They're definitely starting at a 5 out of 5 stars right now. I have a lot of this left to read before I give them a final rating, but I also do really think that they're probably going to keep that 5 stars. And that is going to bring us to the manga that I am currently caught up to and reading chapters from as a update over on the Shonen Jump app, but this time it's January, and those chapters include chapters 119.1 to 121 of Kaiju number 8, chapters 27 and 28 of Ruri Dragon, chapters 179 to 181 of Blue Box, chapters 141 to 143 of Akane Banashi, and chapters 63 to 65 of Kagurabachi. And I have a few different favorites this month, and yes, Kagurabachi is still in fact one of them. We are continuing that storyline that I mentioned in the December portion, and I have no complaints about that so far. Blue Box was also really good, and I've been wanting to see more Chinatsu playing basketball, and that is exactly what they're giving right now. As for Kaiju number 8, I fear the end is near for them, and I am so not ready for that. But they did something extremely cool this month, and their action scenes are always fun, but I feel like what they did is only going to make them somehow more fun. And all 3 of those series were amazing in January, but I actually do think Akane Banashi might be my favorite favorite here because they did something that I did not expect at all, and they did it in a really interesting way that had me fully hooked. I am really excited to see what this all means for our characters, and I am just so excited to see how the story continues from here. Okay, so that is all that I have for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that, and hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!